Saying, right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Vince. And I just wanted to shout out and say to everybody, thank you to everyone who's subscribed, and thank you to everybody who's joining us today, because I've already started chatting to Mr. Mick Strawn. Hi, Mick.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well, actually. Yeah, I'm terribly busy, but you know, that's what it is. It's life. That's what we do.
I have to say hi. I have to say hi to a couple of fans that I have over there on that side. On that side of the what is that thing out there?
Pond.
Oh, pond. Right. Pond.
Yeah.
On the other side of the pond. On the other side of the puddle.
That stretch of water. Yeah.
Yes. Matt Fritz. He's probably going to appreciate that I say hi, and Rita Scott, and that's all I can remember at the moment. But hi guys,
Rita.
That proves that I actually do have two fans that are not in America.
Rita Scott, I know that name.
Yeah,
I'm sure she. Yes,
she does a radio show.
She does a radio show. The Welsh Reviewer.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Other country stuff. Just babble. Other country. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Cool. Okay. Yes. Okay. We're good. Danny, thank you very much indeed for your question. I shall come to that in a little bit later on. So the first question is, I'll let you take a sip. And the rattling of the ice cubes.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's such a corny question, but how did you get into movies? How did you get into the business?
I opened the door and walked right in.
Yeah.
But technically, you mean like who did I know and stuff? My sister worked in New York, and she was a costume designer on an off Broadway show. And see, she had training in like wardrobe and like theatrical stuff. And a friend of hers just says, "Hey, listen, you want to come to California and do a commercial?" And she said, "Yeah." And it turned out to be this Canadian safety commercial that was a science fiction tour de force. And it was a huge thing happening. You know, the Canadian Safety Board had to get rid of $5 million.
Wow.
And yeah, in 1981. That's a lot of money, boy. And so they had $5 million to get rid of, and they wrote this. And Sean LaFleur, the director, wrote this thing, and she wanted to have somebody help her out. With the painting, she got the painting contract,
right?
And you know, it's who you know. Come on, it's who you know, right?
Yeah.
So she gets the painting contract, and I came in to help her, and I just didn't leave the business. I thought, hey, this is all right.
So that was 1981. That was it.
That was 81, and I think I worked with her again when I pulled her in to help me out on Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Right. Okay, so carry on.
Well, I was going to say, and how did I get that job?
I don't know, Mick. How did you get that job?
Hey, funny you should ask. I happened to be working, doing some special effects over at Peter Chesney's company, Image Engineering, and we were doing all the effects because you have to do the effects ahead of time. They didn't have things like a director or any of the rest of that. And so I happened to be dropping off the final billing down at New Line Cinema, and I'm waiting for the elevator to take us up 8 floors, and this guy, Jerry Olson, happens to walk up. And I've known Jerry for years, and we're getting the elevator, and he goes, "Is that the building for Nightmare on Elm Street 3?" And he goes, "Oh," I go, "Yeah." And he go, "You know it?" And he goes, "Oh, I just picked that one up. I'm going to be one of the executive producers." He pushes the button, and I started in on it. I said, "You know what? I happen to do all the effects layups. I know a lot about art department. I've been your construction coordinator. I've worked with you before. I've worked as an art director with you. Da, 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 da. And by the 7th floor, I had the gig. By the 8th floor, when the doors opened, I got my sister on, and boom, we did the film.
Right. Okay. It is who you know and which elevator you ride up in, I guess.
You know what? Life is about the elevator you choose.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so let's rewind a bit. So we've kind of skipped ahead a little. So what is, just to put the following discussion, because I want to talk about Fantastic Four in a few moments, but what is, and you kind of described the things that you've done. What is a production designer? What does that role entail?
A production designer deals with everything that you see, tying, making it cohesive, making the look of things. You probably don't know that every film has a production designer, and everything that you see is manipulated in one way or another. The locations are chosen, the sets are built, everything that's on the set is picked. There's basically a kind of reason for it. You understand it more if you were talking about a film like Batman, where everything looks different, or if you're looking at a period piece. But production designers are everywhere. In my case, I happen to be kind of from a construction and effects background. So as a production designer, I kind of tended towards horror films, which are involved in effects and all the production design and how things look and how the wardrobe and everything is tied into one place. And like, for instance, I would give you as an example a junkyard that was used in Nightmare on Elm Street 4. That had a really specific look. I mean, you would just think that it was a junkyard, but actually every one of those cars was placed in a particular place. There were complications everywhere. You don't just stack cars 8 cars high and everybody live without any problem.
Because this is on both Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, you have the junkyard. And and they look very similar between the two films from my viewing of them.
Yeah, they do. And that was my look. That's not how a junkyard looks. Not at all. maybe somewhere in Tennessee, I guess, but certainly not California.
No. How did you approach that? So, how did you approach? Okay, so and again, this just you've explained that you're responsible for everything. How do you approach it? You get the script. You
get the script. You get the script. You break it down. It's going to have locations, first of all, the script itself is going to have specific things that have to be there. Things that are tied into the action, into the blocking, into the directing itself. But then also overriding that, you're going to be making a look for the film. I give you an example. The look on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and it had a very specific look. The Nightmare on Elm Street 4, to me, I wanted it to feel like a roller coaster ride.
Right.
And actually, I wanted that on Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and it wound up being a roller coaster ride that you have down at the local Kmart. Whereas by the time we did Nightmare on Elm Street 4, it was Disneyland.
Right. Yeah. Different size of budget, I guess.
Different, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I spent $1.3 million in the art department on Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Wow.
Which, for the time, was a hell of a lot of money. But you have to remember, we didn't have a script. And because of that, nobody would say no. and I had Rachel Talalay, who was the producer, had my back. I mean, she believed in me. She helped me out in every way you can possibly imagine. She's one of the finest people, and she and I had a vision of what we wanted to do, and we did it.
So basically, you're saying, okay, here's a cool idea. This will make an interesting scene.
Right.
Presumably, death. I presume you were concentrating on how can we kill somebody imaginatively. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But not only that, but just the idea of when the camera opens up, you say, "Where are we? This is awesome." And it's funny that you should use the word cool, because a lot of times that would be my excuse if somebody turned to me and go, "Well, yeah, but what are we? Why like this?" And I go, "Well, it's freaking cool, isn't it?" And I go, "Well, yeah, it's certainly cool."
So, so basically, you were building stuff before you had a script written?
On Nightmare on Elm Street 4?
Yeah.
On 4? We had a very loose idea of a script, but we had an awful lot of ideas that came along as we were going. I mean, obviously the junkyard was in the original script, but the idea of the loop, the dream loop that we were in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, certainly the way that that it ended with the truck hitting nothing, which was my idea, that was at the end of several really horrendous meetings where a group of people that are really tired would sit down and do and say incredibly stupid things. In fact, that's exactly how that happened. I can tell you exactly the point into which I came up with that idea. We were sitting and it was all the main players, the director, Rennie was there, and Peter Chesney and Rachel and Bob Shea, and all the main characters were there, and we're sitting in this room, and we're over at Peter Chesney's shop in his big conference room, and it had gotten pretty bad. We had Freddie up in a jet. See, we had the two of them piloting a passenger jet, right? And they're going along and we're having an argument. And this is true. We're having an argument as to whether Freddie was the co-pilot or Freddie was the stewardess poking. I mean, and I swear, I'm sitting there and I have my head in my hands going, "Oh, Jesus, this is just terrible," right? And I was thinking to myself, and honestly, I thought to myself, I said, "Well, why don't we just hit nothing?" And I said it out loud, that I have a disability. I was born without an interior voice, an inside voice. And I said it out loud, and the guy that was next to me turns to me and goes, well, what would that look like? And I said, well, and I snapped out and I went, oh, well, it would be like we crashed the truck against its own front bumper. And basically, in the long run, that's exactly what we did.
Because it is, we should have warned spoilers, but I'm assuming people are, probably.
Come on, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, right?
Yeah. Probably BBC. Okay. Because it is, again, and I wanted to come back to the cinema later on, but that is an amazing effect, because it's just like, it just crumples.
Right.
How did you do it?
Well, it's funny because I said it, the guy challenged me next to me, and then I thought, well, how would I do it? And I thought to myself, well, we did it this way. We built a front bumper onto the truck that we put into continuity, and then literally through the truck we cabled that front bumper to a tractor, and like a big G7 Caterpillar.
Right.
And we put a camera right at the end of where the cable, is, and although my idea was like literally you just revved it up and let it go, right? We kind of did a version of that where we pulled it. We had a truck go another direction. We had a pulley in the middle of the road, and pulled the truck to the end of it, and it literally just pulled it. It was going 55 miles an hour when it hit the end of the cable.
Did you have to have a driver in the truck?
No, huh? No. It's just we pulled it to the end of a cable. We had to know exactly where it was going to be.
Sure.
And dude, let me tell you something. It's not like every driver in the film wanted to do it. Oh, they were like, oh, look, they were jumping up and down. You know, it's like, well, yeah, I know, but you know what? Really, we don't think that that's going to turn out so well for you. Because nobody had ever done it. Nobody had ever come up with the idea before. It was a pretty interesting idea all by itself.
It is, and it's actually one of the a very effective moment in the movie, because you just think, what the hell? Oh no, Freddy's gonna, standing in the middle of the road. You're gonna run Freddy down, and it's like, yay, Freddy's gonna get hit. Hey, what just happened?
You know what? I just saw it. I just saw it copied on Bright.
You saw it.
Bright is a show on Netflix right now.
Right.
And they did the same gag.
Nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, I have to say, I am pretty sure that I was the first to come up with that one.
Yeah. It works, because it really does. It just kind of completely folds in.
That was one thing that I really had to fight for, was that it be only 1 point. Because everybody's fear was that because it was only 1 point, it could break the cable and that the truck would be loose. And I said, well, then really what we have to do is we have to go to an area where if it got loose, it wouldn't matter. So we did.
Yeah.
But there was only 1 point on there that the cable was attached, and you could absolutely see everything wrap around it.
And is this just the metal? You basically took the engine out of the truck?
Just took the engine out of the truck so that the front would, fold around. Yeah.
Brilliant. It, as I say, it's really effective.
It's a pretty fun little gag. Yeah.
It's a really, really nice gag.
Oh,
really.
Yeah. You should have seen me there at the location when they did it. I was so, because you know what? Nobody knew what it was going to look like.
Right.
I mean, like how I came up with the idea of how to do it, but even I had no absolute idea about what it was going to look like. But boy, it came out. It was everything that I wanted. I was jumping up and down. Woohoo!
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Nightmare on Elm Street 4 a little later. Actually, no, we'll carry on talking about it in a moment before we go back to Fantastic Four. But because we was talking just before the show about there is one moment, the cinema sequence where she falls into. It's like I was watching that.
It's like,
this is so cool.
This is like an auteur's fine wines. I love that sequence.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely superb. So, was that in the script originally? Or
yes, that was in the script. Yeah, that was in the original script. And and as much as it was, the way that it all was accomplished was pretty pretty interesting. Yeah, we were at the theater, and we have her going in, and I think that we have a shot of her in the theater itself, and then we are in the platform that and what we did is on the stage we built a theater.
Right.
We built that balcony.
Sure.
And she walks in, and we have people belted all over the place, so that they don't move. And then it was built on 2 load lifters, which are they're like tractors.
Right. And
they have these arms, these enormous arms that lift out and move over like this. And we built that whole flat platform over those arms, and then started the tractors up and literally started raising the arms.
Wow.
And she's got the popcorn, and her stunt person then has to crawl. Then, as it comes vertical, her stunt person has to deal with letting herself go down the layers of seats. Hold on a second. Shut up. You two. I'm watching my son's dog, and
right.
now they're fighting. And now he's fighting with my dog.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah.
Are they okay?
At some point, they're going to start barking, and this is going to get loony. But well, what can I say?
Well, yeah, I'm fortunate because Craig, my other half, is downstairs with our dog. It's just curled up on the sofa behind him, probably. But yeah, I thought I recognized those sounds of
that's right.
Unhappy fake canines. So okay, so you've got so basically, because you must have had a camera close to the popcorn and the drinks, and you had a fan going as well because you see her hair.
Yeah, we did. We had people. We rode that ride several times. Yes. There were people that thing went up and down forever, because we would do close-ups of the people in there, as it's going up, and we had the fans, and we had several shots of her going down and all the way to the rim, and then we took the rim, which was the edge of the balcony, and we hooked it to a crane in downtown LA. In front of a building. Beacons used to have a building on Highland Avenue in downtown Hollywood, and it was ideal for what we needed. It was probably 9 stories high, but it was a fur storage unit. So basically what it was is a 5-story high refrigerator.
Right.
And it had no windows on it. And it had a side that had nothing on it, just 5-story high or 10-story high, just straight concrete. And so what we did is we took, and we noticed we showed up the ceiling once at the theater, and it has those decorated beams across it.
Mm-hmm.
So we duplicated those beams, did the faux painting on them and so forth, and then strung them all up the side of that building.
Okay.
And then we had the front. We had the front of the balcony, right? And we had used that on our device, but then we turned around and took that to the location, hooked it up to a crane. And then the stunt person holds onto the side of that, and then we lift her up 10 stories, and she falls into the bag.
Wow, 10-story drop.
That's the shot that you see. Because we had to get. The thing is, we needed a lot of space.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, if you look at that fall, she falls for a long time.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and she literally just does a 10-story drop onto a bag.
Right, onto a bag.
That's why I couldn't see any strings or cables. Yeah.
Yeah, of course not. It's a fall. That's what I was saying about this. Is we replaced all of the concept of being sucked in with a fall, and all the way through.
It's.
So you got to take a look at it now. You got to take a look at it now, knowing that. Then when you go back and you look at it, you go, "Oh yeah, I get it now."
Yeah. I mean, I kind of got the, I could see gravity because the liquid falling out. But yeah, that fall, I couldn't work out how on earth you did the fall.
Yeah, that was it.
Stunt people really do earn their living, don't they? 10 stories is a long way.
Oh yeah. It was a big fall because we had so many. We had to make it feel right. We had to make enough. We had to have enough footage of it to make it worth it to do that. And she is falling. I mean, there's a lot of movement and stuff when she goes down.
It's extraordinary as well, and this is one of the things you can always know when a dummy's being thrown off the side of a.
Oh yeah.
Because
that was the one thing that we didn't want.
Yeah. It's extraordinary, absolutely amazing effect. Okay, well, I keep on saying we're going to wind back a bit, so let's wind back. And Danny, we are getting your questions through. I will feed in as many questions as possible. Just to give you a head up, Mick, we're going to have questions on Blade and Candyman, which we'll come to a little bit later on. But
okay,
Fantastic Four. This is your first production designer credit, is that right?
No, actually, I don't think that we did that until 91.
Okay.
I think. And I got called up. I got called up in November. I think maybe late October, to come do this little film, Fantastic Four, and I was told it's got no money. And we need to have half of it done before the end of the year.
And you got this phone call in November.
Yeah, right. Think about that one. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, wait a minute. You mean Fantastic? You mean the comic book and all that? And oh yeah. It's like, and who is this with? And well, you're going to be filming at the studio that Archer Corman's studio. And I have to say, kind of went, okay, well, it's not really kind of my thing to do. I mean, it's obviously my thing, but I don't do like Corman style budgets and stuff like that. But I just happen to have like a gap. I can't tell you what the gap was between.
Sure.
The thing is the thing about Hollywood is that it never happens until it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And believe me, the one that wants you on the set at 8:00 in the morning is the one that wins, irregardless.
Yeah.
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 Because believe me, everybody that's on a film had 5 that didn't go through just before that film started.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
And so I wound up down there in the middle of this pile of wood that was called a studio by the Corman bunch, and we took it over, and it was pretty interesting.
Because you did miniatures on that as well, is that right?
Yes, I did. Well, now the thing is I have always kind of done miniatures on the side.
Right.
I worked a lot with Mark Stetson. I actually did the miniature penguin lair for Batman.
Oh, okay.
Just I was always hanging over at his place in between shows.
Right.
And so at the end of that show, there was an optical guy. Let me put it this way. A lot of the people that we worked with, and Ole was great. Ole was the director, and he was awesome.
Right.
But an awful lot of the people that worked on that film were just beginners at what they did. They were Roger Corman regulars.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. I had been through the mill a couple of times, and so I wound up doing things that I thought that. Well, there was an optical guy that no matter what, he would say, "Oh, well, we can do that as an optical, right?" And I would look at it and I would go, "Well, yeah, but how exactly are you going to do that as an optical?" And then he would start to do that mumble thing. Well, we're going to do, and so I knew that he was basically bullshit,
right?
And and so I did a bunch of miniatures kind of as we went along, just filmed them as the second unit director so that we would have them in the end. And you wound up using all that stuff. because that guy disappeared. The guy that talked bull. Believe me, you know, when you're on a film and a guy starts to mumble and he's one of your tech guys, just it's not a good sign. Yeah.
No. Yeah, the moment you call them out on it. Yeah.
But I will give you a great story to tell you the level of experience of everybody that was there. There was a time where we were shooting. We did a bunch of those spin-ins. You know, the newspaper spin-ins?
Yeah.
You know, the classic, right?
Yeah.
Well, the way that you do those is that you find basically what it is you have some kind of device that spins the paper. Basically, in our case, it was a drill motor with basically with a bolt through a piece of plywood, and the paper is put on the front of it, right?
Yeah.
But what you have to do is you have to find your final position first.
Right.
And you shoot backwards from that. I mean, that's how you do the spin in, because otherwise you can't get anything to stop at the right time, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the meeting, and I bring that up, and doing second unit, and I'm directing. And I said, well, we'll have to shoot this in reverse. And the camera guy looks at me and goes, well, we can't do that. We can't get a reverse mag, you know, so that the film runs in reverse. I said, don't worry about that. We'll just turn the camera over. And we'll film it upside down. It'll be the same thing. And he gets into an argument with me. And he goes, well, that can't possibly be the same thing. I think, well, how could it not be the same thing? And the thing is for some reason in my mind, I knew it worked. I mean, it just didn't seem like it couldn't, right?
Right.
And so he wanted me to explain it to him, and so I went over to the editing bay that happens to be there on the quote unquote studio. Yeah. Which is actually an old lumber yard. And I went to the editing bay and I said, hey, give me a piece of film, maybe about 3 feet long, just whatever, you know, any exposed piece of film. And one of the editors hands me, you know, exposed piece of film, you know, that, and I went over to the guy. So I went over to him, and I would like run the film in front of my eyes like this and go, see, this is the right way. And then you turn the camera around and you go like that, right? And it's backwards, the same thing. And he looks at me and he grabs the film and he runs the film in front of his eyes and he goes, oh yeah, I see what you meant. Which, of course, let's face it, it was complete bullshit. It was absolutely, completely bullshit. It's the only thing I could think of, and I did it. And so that was early in the morning. It gets to be the end of the day. My art director comes up to me and he says, you know, I got to ask you a question. He says, did you tell somebody around here that you could see, you know, that if you ran a piece of film in front of your eyes, you could see something in it? And I go, why? He goes, because there's this piece of film that's gone all the way through everybody on the stage. He says, and they say the most bullshit stuff about it. And when I hear it, I go, God damn, that had to be you. That was you, right? Well, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was me. But that's what we did, and it did work. So, hey, you know what? Whatever tool is in the toolbox, God damn it.
And to me, that's just a Corman-esque answer to a problem.
Oh, the whole situation was very Corman-esque. Yes.
Yeah. And I have to, you know, you could tell it's it's a cheap movie. But it looks pretty good. I was really surprised because I'd obviously heard about this for years.
Everybody has. It's got to be the most popular unreleased, non-existent film that there's ever been.
It's like it really is. It looked. I mean, I was amazed at how good it looks. I hate speaking ill of actors, but some of the performances, there are lots of other problems with that movie, but it looks really good. Um, oh dear.
The guy Culp, who plays the Doctor Doom, they couldn't get any expression out of his face, right? You know, I mean, basically it was yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. And so what he had to do was he created that thing that he does with his fingers. I recently talked to Oldie about this, you know, and it was pretty funny. I love the things that he does, and Oldie is very, 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 very serious about this.
Right.
You know, he's very serious about the film, and I'm probably a little less serious about it, but by God, I really love Oldie. I really do.
Yeah, he did. You know.
I thought he did an amazing. You know, look, the guy did an amazing job. You have no idea. They say that it was done for $1 million, but you know what? The fact is if they spent $5,500 on it, I would be fucking utterly shocked.
Yeah, yeah. The budgets that one sees on IMDb, and I love the fact that every budget I've ever seen on IMDb is estimated. Yeah, because nobody ever releases the true amount of their budget.
The place that we were shooting, literally, you had to watch out because in Corman's that was an old lumber yard, right? And you know, it quote unquote had 2 stages and editing bays and stuff like that. But the thing is it essentially had been done in the 1920s, and they just put like a really thin layer of plywood over whatever hole happens to happen in the floor. And as you're walking along, there's this one hole. I swear to God, there's this one hallway that you walk down that's, you know, got all the quote unquote offices in it. And as you come down, it looks like somebody's that's coming towards you. It looks like they're coming towards you on a boat. Because you gotta do this waving side to side, bounce off the walls, you know, because of the floor, soft spots in the floor and stuff like that. It's just it's the creepiest place you've ever been.
I'm sure. As regular viewers of this show, you know, I'm a huge fan of Roger Corman movies. I love his Edgar Allan Poe. So it's nothing against him at all. I just amazing.
Oh, see, one day we were shutting down. we were shutting down for our break, right? We got a 4-day break. We had actually made our timeline. You know, I think that we had to have 50% of it done, and we did. It's in the can, and I'm going. And it's 4 days before the end of the year, so we get those 4 days off. Woo! And I'm going around and I'm making sure that everything's locked up. Well, the Mole Man's Lair, that set was in the separate building, quote unquote, maybe where they used to put the 2x4s, right?
Right.
And so you had to cross the lumberyard to get to it. So I crossed the lumberyard and I'm over there and I'm checking the doors, and there's a guy sitting. A guy is up by the Mole Man's chair, right? And he's pulled up a folding chair next to it, and he looks like an older accountant guy, right? And I go around and I check, and he's got a pad of paper out, and he's scribbling on the pad of paper, and I'm checking the back door, and I was looking to make sure there wasn't anything flammable out, or, you know, just. And the guy hasn't moved, and I go up and I say, okay, well, do you know how to lock up? And he goes, oh, no, I know how to lock this building up. I've got it. And I go, okay. I said, who are you? Just so that I know that I'm not walking away. Oh, he said, and he says, my name's Roger. And it turns out to be him, right? And so and I go, well, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I really like this set, and I'm writing a film on this set. And I thought, silly me, I thought, well, that'd be when we were completely done with the set. Well, we came back in 6 days. We took 4 days off plus 2, came back in 6 days. Everything had been repainted. Everything that was there originally was gone. It was just, it's like fucking Lord of the Flies. Holy shit. He was talking about now. He's talking about it must have started filming like as I was leaving the stage.
Well, because I mean, famously, this is how Little Shop of Horrors, the original was made. We've got a few days. We've got the set. We've got actors. We'll. Let's make a movie.
If you saw somebody's resume in town and they had 25 pictures in a year, I'm not kidding. If you saw 20, it was a really specific phenomenon, and you would go, "You worked in New Horizons, didn't you?" And they would go, "Yeah, I did. Yeah, exactly."
Yeah, and hey, a lot of good people started there.
It's wherever you begin,
Mm. Oh God, yeah. Anyway, all right, Danny, you've been very patient. For me getting around to your questions, and we've got about 20 minutes left on this. So, Blade. Danny says, Blade. By the time the movie was over, I was in awe over the visionary success that I had just seen. Stephen Norrington had such a stylistic eye. What were your memories of working on that production?
Steve Norrington is the biggest dick that's ever existed. Steve Norrington, let me tell you something. In America,
uh-huh.
and I love every country. I love all people, right? But in America, that son of a bitch would never have lived long enough because we don't have gun control. He would have never lived long enough to be making a motherfucking film.
Really?
And by God, there's an awful lot of people out there that agree with me, including Sean Connery.
Well, I don't really want to go in for character assassination.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
That's okay. No. Yeah. Leave that one to me.
It's like, okay, you obviously didn't get on well. Not a happy experience working on that one. What? Give us kind of an example of what the sort of thing, the stuff you were dealing with in that case.
Just as an example, and I'm not going to get. This is not personal, but the wardrobe. There was a sequence that they're breaking they break into the subway, and when they do, there are 30 cops that are battling them. Okay, and these 30 cops are killed left and right, and they all have squibs on their uniforms and so forth. Now, I was working special effects, and we were in charge of all these squibs, and so we took about maybe a week and a half and had a specific warehouse just to deal with the 30, which is actually 90 uniforms that are all squibbed. And the day before, the producers let him change the uniforms. Now, here's the thing. How big of a fucking difference could that possibly make in anybody's world? Right? I mean, come on. I swear the wardrobe women were in tears. They were just absolutely in tears. I had to put on like 15 people just to re-rig all these uniforms. And here's the thing. And he said so many times, he wanted to prove that the American way of making films is just is wrong, is fragile and fucked up. Well, you know what? If you're the director, it's pretty damn easy to prove how fragile and fucked up making a film can be. You're the director. So that's by the time I left about 3/4 of the way through. I couldn't deal with him. He was beat up by the key grip. he was the first AC was 15 feet up above him on a camera and jumped him from up there. The guy was just he was just obnoxious, you know, and I was working on a film after I quit, and I happened to get a phone call from a friend of mine who had worked on it, and he actually was in Europe, in Venice, where Sean Connery was dressing Norrington down at the rap party, and my friend was holding up a phone so that I could hear Connery tell Norrington what an incredible asshole and non-human he was.
Wow. Wow.
But, you know.
Yeah.
Vampires. What can you say?
Yeah. No idea. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on from that. Let's talk about one film I know you worked on that just cracks me up Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. Now, what was your role? Remind us, what was your credit? What was your role on Boogie Nights?
Special effects.
Special effects.
Yeah. I was the Lou Carlucci was the coordinator, and I was the best boy.
Right.
And I don't know if I need to go into that whole scene, but I will tell you, we were like operating a business out of a shop on up in the valley, mm-hmm. And I happened to walk into work one day, and I'm handed a script and an address, and they said, "You better get going. You're already late." And I'm like, shit, you know. Of course, this happens all the time. So we got the contract to do, you know, X amount of effects, and I'm jamming across town. I come into this meeting. I'm 4 pages late, right? So this is the production run through,
right?
The AD then sits and reads through the script, and everybody comments on what they're going to do, you know, at a given scene and at a given shot, and you all go through the script together. Mm-hmm. Now, I grabbed another script when I got there at the meeting so that I could have one on the table in front of me, and I could have another that I was reading down here on my lap, so that I could get a couple of pages ahead. and I'm reading ahead, and all of a sudden I look down and I go, whips out the Diggler. And the and the Diggler is this 12-inch long penis written in the script. And I'm looking down at my lap, and I'm only 2 pages ahead. And I look up, and the thing is first of all, there's always somebody doing that at a read-through. Mm. You know, there's always somebody that's just been brought into the door, right? And the prop master, who I know is sitting across from me, and he's looking me right in the eye because he knows exactly what I was doing. He knew exactly when I read that. And I look up, and he goes, "Yeah." He says, "And here's the Diggler." He slaps that huge rubber penis on the middle of the table. And I knew I was in for a pretty weird ride.
It's an amazing film, apart from that. Because you got the shootout. I presume you're doing special effects. Presume that's the shootout in the can't remember. It's a restaurant come diner. Is that what I'm thinking? Is that?
We were only in certain places.
Right.
We were like. Now, the funny thing is and I guess I'll tell this, and this will probably be the end of the show. This will be enough. So we wind up sitting in this little room that had been dressed out as a laundry room.
Right.
Right. And we get into this room, and we're shooting staring guns. Now, staring gun is it's basically a paintball gun,
Right.
Back before paintball guns, and it shoots one little pellet that has blood in it, fake blood in it, and you can shoot it on skin. So it's a very, very fragile little, it's basically what you get when somebody's naked and you see a bullet hit. That's what they're using. It's a staring gun, and so only one shot per gun. I'm sitting on the floor with Lou Carlucci and Ron Meyer. And we just barely have enough room. Literally, Ron is looking around, trying to shoot around the dryer over in the corner, and on the washer, this girl is getting banged by a guy who's hung like a horse, and this goes on for 16 hours, and that's all we can look at is. I get to look right at. I'm not kidding. Probably the distance that I'm holding this camera away from my face is how close this guy's dong is to me, and in and out and in and out and in and out and this is during the party scene, the one who Bill Macy comes, right, yeah. And here's the thing is that we sit here, we watch them fake screw for 16 hours, and he only comes in the door. Bill Macy comes in the door like 3 times. There's only 3 times that they actually got in the room so for us to fire the styrene guns, right? And here's the kicker. I've seen the film. In the film, the camera doesn't even go all the way and see us in there. It doesn't even see the two of them screwing. All of that was for nothing. I lost my tailbone, and I couldn't get it up for 2 months because of nothing.
My story's not so bad. I remember my third movie, Nightbreed, 16-hour day. In the original cut of Nightbreed, you see me go, that's it. That's it. In more recent cuts, the whole scene's there, but it's kind of that never. Most I've ever paid for anything in my life is just like, all you get to see me is just like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
yeah. Okay, well, we do have a few moments left. One of the things I wanted to ask Danny, working on another question from Danny, working on Candyman. How much involvement did you have on Candyman? What were you doing on Candyman?
Okay, this is the Candyman story. I get called by the time that we did Candyman. I had been doing quite a bit of kind of pickup art, sort of like the professional that kind of comes in and takes over when the kids are misbehaving. And I walk in, and this film is like 2/3 of the way done filming. And I'm talking to the producer in his office, and we kind of made a deal to take over art department. And I would say, well, I don't know that I'm going to take over art department. I might just see, like how it's going. And I go, well, what's been your problem? And he says, well, it's kind of it's a personality issue between the production designer and the DP. And I go, personality issue. He says, yeah, it's, they just don't really get along. And I go, okay, well, I'll come in and I'll see if I can be a buffer in between the two of them. And so I go from that office, I sign a deal, I go from the office, I go to the stage. Now, as I walk onto the stage, there's the coffee machine is to my left. And I walk on, my eyes are adjusting. You always go from the daylight, and I'm letting my eyes adjust. And as my eyes adjust, an older man, and he was obviously the DP, because you can always tell. I don't know what it is. It's like, they like carry a cloud or something around with them or something. So the DP comes storming around the corner of the set. And he walks over, he just stomps over to the coffee machine. He grabs the pot of coffee, turns around, and goes back onto the set. And I was thinking, well, that's curious. I'm going to go see what that's all about. So I walk onto the middle of the set, and it's this Mies van der Rohe kind of, form equals function, beautiful set. The camera is there. The entire crew is behind the camera, just where they would be if they were going to be making a shot. Only the actors are cowering in the corner, and the production designer has got the decaf, and he's got the regular coffee, and they are slinging hot coffee at each other. And I turn around, I walk back into the producer's office, and I say, okay, we're going to double that. We'll double that, and I'll stick around. And he doubled it, and I went back in, and I spent the rest of the show literally just trying to hold the two of them at arm's length.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, and you know what? I worked with her again, and I got to tell you, just from working with her, I worked with her in Portland.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And at the very end of the film, we had ordered this probably $300 piece of neon, right? At the end of the film, we get an invoice from the neon company for $1,600. And the producers, well, what's that all about? I said, I don't know. I'll find out. And so I go over to their place and I said, well, what is this $1,600 for like a $300 piece of neon? And he says, yeah, I figured you'd be in. And he pulls out the original paperwork. And there's a handwritten contract that she has signed that says every time she walks into the office and bitches about the neon, it's going to cost us $100. And you know what? This is how bad she was. The producers just signed the check and said, yeah, okay, yeah, cheap at half that price.
Jesus.
Yep.
It's a mad world. It really is just a mad.
The thing that you have to understand is everybody in Hollywood, eventually, they believe their own hype.
But you think, well, why on earth do people employ? Because it's not a big town, Hollywood.
It's not. You're right.
It's not a big town. Surely there are stories must get round. Surely people. But then I guess
But a bitchy production designer. Who knew, right? Of course they're going to hire a bitchy production designer.
Jesus. Listen, we are coming to the end of the show.
Reasonable never got anybody anywhere, right?
I don't know. I can be quietly, menacingly reasonable, if necessary. I found that always works.
Save that for the 7-Eleven, buddy.
As we're winding up the show, what I wanted to do was give a shout out to Podcast Dream Warrior Review, which is your podcast you're doing with Kurt Thomas.
Yes, please listen.
Please listen. Guys, just to say, if you want to hear more of Mick's stories, because you have story time with Mick, M-I-Q.
Yes. Right, that's right.
So how did
story time with Mick is so much fun. Please join us. I don't even know what I'm going to say. You and I are both going to be hearing it the first time.
Yeah, and it comes and it's great. So how did, because you're doing this almost daily, is that right?
Well, I haven't been doing it for the last 2 weeks because I've been sick as a dog. But
right.
We put quite a few of them out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to give total credit to Kurt because as my granddaughter has put it, Kurt is the one that sounds reasonable, and he's done like homework, and he does the technical stuff, and he knows how to make the buttons do and everything, and I just freaking sit there and rant. Yep.
That sums it up quite nicely.
Thank you.
It really is an enjoyable listen. They really are.
Thank you very much.
That really is a very enjoyable thing. Okay, so we are officially at the end of the show. What are you working on?
One other little thing.
Yes,
I do have. I have a book coming out.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, you've got a book. You're writing a book on Nightmare on Elm Street 4?
4. Yeah, I was writing a book on 4, and it will be followed probably within a year by. My book is going to be called. Wait a sec. Behind the Screams.
Right.
And Behind the Screams 3, which will be the next version of it, that will be about Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Right. So that's what you're working on at the moment. Have you got any appearances coming up, or anything else people should be aware of apart from the podcast?
You know what? I'm in negotiation with Days of the Dead, and just got stuff left and right. I don't know. Stay tuned.
Right. Cool.
You know what? The best way to stay in touch with me is just to sign on as a friend on Facebook.
Right. And that's where you make your announcements and so on. I put that on. I make sure there is a link to Facebook. I'll put that on the YouTube when I put the show notes up. I thought this was going to be fun. I was right.
Did you have a good time?
I had a very good. Did you have a good time?
I did indeed. Yeah. You
Good.
have a great sense of humor.
Thank you. Well, and I hope the dogs are okay. Have they calmed down a little now?
Let's see. This one, that dog right there.
Oh,
it's been in my arms,
bless.
almost through the whole thing.
Oh, cute. Yeah, we've got a 40-pound staffy. I can't remember pit bull. Yeah,
Pitbull, right.
What you call a pit bull. Yeah, we've got a 40-pound staffy who will try and assume the same position. Yeah. He literally will try and climb into a chair.
They've actually been incredibly well behaved back here.
Yeah, they've been very good. Good, cool. All right. Cool. All right. Well, hopefully I shall meet you in person down the line, hopefully at a convention or something. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, Mick.
You know what? You can always pick another 3 films, and we can do this again.
Well, let's do that later in the year then. That sounds fine with me.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That sounds like a great deal of fun.
Okay, man.
That's cool. All right, then we'll say goodbye in just a few moments. Before I do, just want to remind people that next week I haven't officially announced, but I'm chatting with Shah Mayer, who was mentioned on the show last week. She is a scare actor, and we were talking last week about Haunters, the documentary, which she features on that. So I'm really looking forward to talking to her next week about 3. She hasn't told me who we're going to be talking about yet, but I'll let you know once I know. Anyway, Mick, thank you very much indeed, and goodbye, folks.
Thank you.
And we will stop the broadcast, and we will